When the inevitable zombie apocalypse is upon us, who will you save? Your family? Your friends? How about a stray cat? My name is Graeldon, and I'm reviewing Steam games in alphabetical order to find the hidden gems among the piles of garbage, and today's game is 1-Bit Survivor. Let's begin. I'll admit that 1-Bit Survivor surprised me. When I was looking at the store page, it didn't strike me as anything special, so I'm glad that I went into this game with a relatively open mind. I guess that's the perk of reviewing so many garbage games. When you stumble upon something actually worth your time, even if it's just slightly above mediocre, you appreciate it a heck of a lot more than you would have otherwise. Released on the 11th of August 2023 by Chaz Acaronti, 1-Bit Survivor is a relatively short and sweet take on the classic roguelike genre, with a sprinkling of zombies and stylized first-person combat. The general premise is basically what you would expect from any run-of-the-mill zombie apocalypse game. There was an outbreak of an unstoppable virus, and now zombies are on the loose and the world has gone to hell. In 28 days, a bomb will be dropped to wipe out the mutants. So far, it's pretty typical. Where it gets interesting is that just as you were on the verge of giving up, you happen to encounter and befriend a stray cat, naming him Leo. Now your mission is to use the remaining 28 days to reach the city where a bomb shelter is located, possibly the only shelter left in the crumbling ruins of society. You'll need to travel as far as possible every day in order to make it in time, and the journey will be filled with danger. But surely it's worth it, for Leo, right? Because what I wouldn't do for myself, I absolutely would do for a cat that I literally just met and is possibly carrying as many diseases as the zombies are. You know what? As a cat owner, I absolutely would do this. Alright, let's get into it then. So, loading up the game will land you on a striking black and white title screen, but the first thing that caught my attention was actually the music. It's in a retro chiptune style, but also dark and haunting. Excellent for this style of game. I'll come back to the sound design later because we should get into the actual game. When starting for the first time, the game will force you through a short tutorial that explains the basic controls. It's not as slick as it could be, but it gets the job done just fine. With that out of the way, we can finally dive in. Say hello to Larry. Larry is the first of the 3 survivors you can play as, and you unlock the other characters, Barry and Gary, by finishing the game with the previous one. Equipped with a knife and pistol, Larry is equally as effective in combat at any range. The pistol has 4 bullets, and using these wisely will be key to success if you want to survive all 28 days. Each individual day consists of a single tile-based map to explore. Movement and combat are turn-based in traditional roguelike style, with the player's actions happening before the enemies, but both actions are shown simultaneously on screen. The further you progress, the larger and more complex the maps become, but the goal always stays the same. Find the fuel and return to the car. This is made more difficult by the fact that you only have a limited light radius, and of course all manner of creatures and zombies will try to make your life miserable, but that's what the weapons are for. If you find yourself running low on health or ammo, you'll need to see what you can scavenge from the various crates littered around and pray that you don't get 5 medkits in a row when you're looking for ammo, while being chased by an angry horde that are hungry for, well, you. Every 7 days completed will see Larry and Leo arrive at a new location, and if you found a wrench in any of the previous 7 levels, you'll be able to choose from one of 2 randomized upgrades. These are small but powerful. Upgrades include options like being able to carry an extra bullet, your knife dealing double damage, increased flashlight range, more firearm damage at close or long range, or extra health. You'll only get a total of 3 upgrades during a single playthrough, so these choices matter and also add a lot of immersion to that feeling of being a scavenger, struggling to find enough scraps or spare parts to try and increase the odds of survival. Each location change also means a new tile set and new music. The music tracks are all well crafted, having a lovely build to their intensity that matches nicely with the increasing difficulty and number of enemies as you progress through the zone. The sound effects are also punchy in just the right way, making actions like shooting and reloading feel appropriately weighty. On that note, you may have noticed the other main gimmick of 1-Bit Survivor. A lot of the animations are shown from a first-person perspective. I'm not sure if I love it, but I certainly don't mind it. I think it helps to show a level of detail that's not possible from the third-person top-down perspective, and the detail adds to the grittiness of the setting. Overall, I think it's a nice touch, and it does add more immersion to the game, as combat in many roguelites tend to just look like 2 sprites bumping into each other, and that's in the better examples. If I'm being realistic, unless you're a seasoned roguelike veteran, your first few runs will probably end the same way mine did, eaten by zombies. But with each attempt you'll learn a bit more about the game and the mechanics, and with a bit of luck on your side you'll progress. It took me a couple of attempts, but I did manage to guide Larry and Leo to the shelter, but it was an imperfect run. Having used the one and only revive that you get, Larry was unfortunately infected and died. But at least Leo survived. Now, technically this counts as having beaten the game, so I could have ended things there, but given that I just unlocked Barry, I thought it would be worth a look to see how, or if, the playstyle or mechanics were changed, or if there was a different ending for different characters. So, say hello to Barry. Barry is living his dream as a 90s macho action hero, or maybe he's just a biker that leans heavily into that particular image, but either way he's more gruff and tough than Larry. Armed with a shotgun, Barry does more damage at close range, allowing him to one-shot enemies that Larry couldn't. As a trade-off though, he has one less health and one less ammo capacity than Larry. The difference is small, but it does lead to a difference in playstyle, where you feel much more confident taking on enemies, as long as you know you've got some extra ammo available to keep the zombie massacre going. When you're out of ammo though, it doesn't take long to be overwhelmed. Should you manage to finish the game though, you'll unlock the final character, Gary. Say hello to Gary. More of a hunter or marksman by nature, Gary is the opposite of Barry in terms of combat capability. Whereas Larry is the same at all ranges and Barry excels at close range, Gary is best at long range, with his rifle allowing him to easily pick off foes from a distance. Gary gets 4 health and an ammo capacity of 4, and also has an added bonus of a wider visibility radius, helpful given the nature of his combat style. Outside of the combat differences, there aren't really any discernible variations to Gary or Barry's journey compared to Larry. So, I'll happily admit that I didn't finish the game with Gary, although I did get close. But considering there wasn't anything left to unlock other than a Steam achievement, I personally didn't see the point. There is some extra content for those interested in both the achievements and the different high score tables, with challenges such as the fastest runs, taking the least damage, killing the most enemies, and more. However, surrounded by zombies and with no means of escape, this was the end of both Gary's and my journey. To summarise the game in a nutshell, it's simple but effective. 1-Bit Survivor is a great example of a game with a very clear vision by the dev team, and they managed to execute it wonderfully without getting sidetracked by adding too much fluff or unnecessary things to the final product. That said, this can be a double-edged sword, as it can sometimes severely limit your available audience if your game happens to fall into a more niche genre, which seems to be what happened here, as after a period of 6 months, despite the positive rating, it only had 30 reviews. This game undoubtedly deserves more than that, but you should also be aware that the game will, due to its nature, offer a relatively short and repetitive experience, albeit a polished one. A single playthrough would take anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes, making it great for something to play in short bursts, but it also meant that I was done with the game after a total of 2 hours of playtime. At a price point of $4.99 Canadian, I felt that this was quite reasonable, as there were still other challenges and goals to work towards if I was so inclined, but I would also understand if someone felt the price should be a little bit lower. All in all, I had a good time with the game and was pleasantly surprised by just how well executed and how well balanced everything was. The icing on the cake is that in certain scenes, you can pet Leo. He does sound a bit like a motorbike when he purrs, but that's fine, it just means he likes you. So, with that in mind, my final rating for 1-Bit Survivor is, of course, Leo, out of 10. Because like a pet cat, they aren't for everyone, but those that like them will love them. Thanks for watching. Larry, Barry and Gary were sponsored by Azazel, Lampyrides and Zest. You too could sponsor Larry by becoming a channel member. Just click the join button to see the available levels and perks. All of the people you've seen on screen are literally keeping the channel alive, and I'd especially like to thank our 2 Knights of the Holy Grail, Freaky Feline and Loveheart Gonzi. Lastly, I want to thank you for joining me on this weird gaming adventure through the depths of Steam. And if you made it this far, here's a sneak peek of the next game. And until next time, take care.